On today's Strictly Vikings, we're going to recap that tough watch against the Lions. The season isn't over, but damn, that was a tough one. That was a tough one to swallow as a Vikings fan. We'll take our side eye look around the league. The playoff picture is set. We're going to take our Facebook scroll of the week, see how Vikings fans are feeling after that tough loss. We're going to preview the wild card game against the Rams. The Vikings are going back to LA where they lost before. We'll talk about what they have to do to be on the winning side of the game, this side. And of course, we'll finish it off with our Chat GPT player of the day. Let's get into it. Today is Wednesday, January 8th, and the Minnesota Vikings just got spanked on national TV. Spanked. And that's not putting it lightly, or that is putting it lightly. I feel like the Vikings were never winning that game. They had several opportunities to be in the lead that game, but they just didn't execute. And honestly, that's what I came out of that game thinking, that they just didn't execute up to the standard they had been all season, whether it was Sam Darnold, whether it was Justin Jefferson, whether it was the offensive line, whether it was the defense getting stops on fourth down, whether it was the play, all of it. The execution just wasn't at its best. And that could be because of a million things. The lights were too bright. The Lions crowd played a huge factor. Tough team. Could have been a million different things. They just didn't execute. Plain and simple. Let's start with the offense here, as we always do. It didn't seem like the offense had a problem moving the ball. It felt like the offense could get, obviously they got into the red zone 4 times and came away with 6 points, but like when the Vikings got the ball on offense, I wasn't worried about moving the ball. Of course, they didn't sustain a drive every single time they had it, but at the same time it wasn't like a constant struggle to get first downs. It felt like they were able to do that, and then they would get inside the 10 and everything would just fall apart. 4 red zone trips and 0 touchdowns, and that'll cost you a game. That's plain and simple, especially in a game where you're playing for the 1 seed in the NFC. You're not going to win a game getting to the red zone 4 times, scoring 0 touchdowns. I like the decision to go for it on fourth down the first time you were down there. And I like the decision to kick the field goal the second time you were down there. I think going for it on the first time makes sense. You're going to need points. You're going to need touchdowns on the road against this Lions team. And we knew this game would come down to fourth downs, probably who would convert the most and who would get the biggest conversions when they were in the red zone. So we knew that was going to happen, and we knew that was going to be the deciding factor heading into this game. The third time going for it, or third time you're in the red zone, you go for it on fourth down, I don't mind that either. I think you have to do it. You need touchdowns in order to beat this team. Sam Darnold looked rough all game. Detroit was bringing the heat, and whether it was Sam Darnold missing throws, the wide receivers not getting open, or the offensive line crumbling, the Vikings just couldn't handle the heat. And when Sam Darnold is throwing the ball 40-plus times, I've said this before on the podcast, but when Sam Darnold is throwing the ball 40-plus times, it's just not a good sign. I felt like they abandoned the run a little bit too early, especially after Cam Akers had that huge run to start the second half. And I get that you got down and then you really needed to start passing. And it was just the lack of being able to run in the red zone that cost the Vikings so many points. It was just pass after pass after pass. And then when they tried to do it in the first half, they just weren't going anywhere. And, Aaron Jones being out for a drive didn't help. Or he wasn't even out for a drive. He was out for like a couple plays, whatever it was, whatever he was dealing with. But it was tough inside the 10. Let's just say that. Cam Akers did do a good job. When Aaron Jones was out, like I said, it did seem like KOC abandoned the run game a little bit too early. JJ, JA, and TJ didn't have the best games either. The separation wasn't there. The playmaking wasn't there. And again, it all just kind of accumulates into one struggle of an offense. Whether it was Sam missing a throw or the offensive line crumbling or nobody getting open. It was just the perfect storm for the Lions defense on what seemed like every single play. And when the Vikings had, a long play drawn up or a play action play drawn up or called, it was like the Lions had the perfect play call for it on their side of the ball. And sometimes that's just how the game goes. There's really not much you can do when the defense is just hitting the right play every single time when you have the ball. But like I said, Justin Jefferson, back of the end zone catch, the ball, it was a bad throw, 100%. Have I seen Justin Jefferson make that catch before? Of course. I've seen that happen before. And when you're playing for the number one seed in the NFC, you need to execute those plays. They need to happen. The Vikings reached the red zone 4 times, had goal to go 3 times, and 2 failed 4th and goal attempts to go along with a missed field goal. The only team to have that happen in a game in the last 30 years. So let me say that again. They reached the red zone 4 times. They had goal to go 3 times. 2 failed 4th and goal attempts to go along with a missed field goal. I mean, if you add up all those points, at just bare minimum looking at it, 2 failed 4th and goal attempts, that's 14 points. Missed field goal, that's 17. And then you had another 3rd and goal in which you got stopped and kicked a field goal. So that's another, that's 21 points you're looking at almost right there. That's the game, obviously. And there's no denying that. You need to find the end zone in these games. And if you can't, you're not going to win them. It's plain and simple. The offense needs the answer against LA. I think they can, obviously. They have the coach to do it. They have the playmakers to do it. It's not going to be easy, but they definitely have the guys to do it. And I think they can. I'm not going to sit here and say that they can't and the season's over. I think they can for sure. But all around, just not a great showing from this offense. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. They set the tone early. Very important for doing it on the road. You don't want to let this home crowd just go absolutely nuts. You got to stop on the first drive, got the ball to your offense. You were creating turnovers in the first half. Ivan Pace had a great interception off of Josh Metellus' tip. Harrison Smith had an interception after a 4th and goal stop. The defense was doing what they needed to do, and they honestly kept us in the game a lot longer than the Vikings should have been in the game, the way they were playing. This defense, if you were to tell me that the defense held the Lions to 10 points in the first half and forced 2 turnovers, I would think the Vikings were up, I don't know, at least a touchdown in the first half. That was the recipe for success for that defense. And then, of course, Jahmyr Gibbs got going. Fourth downs cost us the game. They couldn't get a stop on 4th down in the second half. It was a bunch of things. But the Lions offense is going to get going eventually. It's just a matter of if the Vikings offense could get it going themselves. And they obviously couldn't to keep us in that game. Jahmyr Gibbs, 4 touchdowns. He was giving me freaking Alvin Kamara vibes out there on Christmas Day. It was bad. But I thought the Vikings defense did what they needed to do in order to win that game. Obviously, that Andrew Van Ginkel drop pick 6 was huge. It was an 8-point game. Could have been a tie game after that. We've seen him make that play 2 times this season, and I think that's what the most frustrating part about it was, is that we've seen that happen before, and we've made those plays before. Just couldn't get it done on the biggest stage in front of the probably biggest audience in the regular season this season. So it was brutal. It was just a couple plays here and there that could have been made, that could have made the difference. But I thought the defense did a good enough job to keep us in that game, and you can't really complain about that performance. Wrapping it up here, the season certainly isn't over. You needed to get that game out of the way. It was a regular season game. Game is done. The expectations have dropped so much. So much. I mean, the expectations are if you win in LA, it's like that's awesome. Now you're in the divisional round, and that's just what people need to focus on now is we just need to win the next game. But the expectations aren't like Super Bowl, all that stuff right now. And I mean, I think there's still a chance for sure. We've seen how good this Vikings team can be when they're playing at their best, and they can beat anyone in the league when they're playing like that. This team won 14 games in the regular season. And just the stuff that I saw online about all the expectations and that, you know, you can compare them to the preseason expectations, and this season is a massive success. And I understand that expectations change throughout the season, but at the same time, you can't take anything away from a team that won 14 games in the regular season. I don't care if this team was projected to win 6.5 games or 12.5 games. Whenever you win 14 games in a regular season, you can't take anything away. You can't say it was a failure. You can't say you didn't live up to the hype. You can't say that you were let down yet again as a Vikings fan. They won 14 games when most people were expecting them to not do anything this season. It was a massive success of a regular season, no matter how you look at it. No matter if you were saying this team's going to win 5 or this team was going to win 12 games. It was a massive success of a regular season, and now it's time to build on that and carry it into the playoffs. I think, honestly, obviously the win would have been huge. And you're the 1 seed, and you have the first round bye, and everyone's coming to US Bank Stadium to play. Obviously, that is huge. I'm not denying that isn't would have been the biggest regular season win in Vikings history. It would have been easily. But now that the expectations have dropped, the pressure is off. There's no more winning streak. All of this stuff is off your shoulders, off your back. It's just like, let's just go play. Let's just go play. Let's just go win this game in LA, and let's just move on from this Detroit game. It's time to move on. All right. Let's take our side eye look around the league here. It was a crazy Sunday. Saturday games were all right. I didn't really watch much of them. I was doing other stuff with my Saturday. But Sunday was crazy. Of course, we're starting with the Packers. They fall to the Bears for the first time in 6 years. And Packers fans are going to sit here and tell you that, that game didn't matter. The Commanders won, didn't change our seeding. My guy, you just lost to the Bears. You lost to the Bears. And you were a blocked field goal away from going 0-6 in the NFC North this season. I know it didn't change your seeding, and I know it has nothing to do with the playoffs, but you lost to the Bears. Nobody likes losing to the Bears. Everybody absolutely hates it. No matter if you're a team in the NFC North, if you're an NFC team, if you're an AFC team, it's the Bears. Nobody likes losing to them. And I know Packers fans, they're going to say it's the biggest rival in the NFL. Well, you just lost the biggest rivalry in the NFL to the Bears, who had nothing to play for, who had every reason to just quit this entire season, and you lost them. And I know that makes them mad. And that makes me so excited. And Packers fans, they can sit here and they can make fun of the Vikings for losing to the Lions that bad, but this is the Packers team that is like supposed to be competing for Super Bowls. Like this was a Packers team that had higher odds to win the NFC than the Minnesota Vikings like 3 weeks ago. This is a Packers team that has high expectations, and that is just the exact opposite of the Vikings going into this season. And the Vikings obviously, clearly, way better season. We swept them. We don't even talk about the Packers when we're talking about NFC contenders. It's like, just get out of here. They're not even on the same level as the Lions and Vikings right now. Eagles rest of starters, still beat the Giants. Giants, thank God you didn't show up. You got to secure that better draft position. Too bad you couldn't have done it 2 weeks ago. Eagles, Packers, I hope the Eagles just curb stomp them. Just curb stomp them. Jalen Hurts better play. It'd be the most Packer thing ever for Jalen Hurts not to play. Let's just put it like that. Titans secure the number 1 pick in a loss with the Texans. They fired their GM. Yeah, I think you got to fire your GM. They spent like hundreds of millions of dollars in the offseason to get the worst record in the NFL. And they don't want this GM mucking up the number 1 overall pick this season. So, yeah, I would fire the GM too. Patriots fall out of the number 1 pick with a win. Joe Milton was a stud. Joe Milton was balling out there. He had a throw. He scrambled around. Sideline dot, 40 yards. Didn't count. Oh my God, it was one of the greatest throws I've ever seen, and I'm not even exaggerating. Go look it up. Joe Milton touchdown pass. I think Ari Marav posted it. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. But that going back to that Patriots-Bengals game, week 1, the Bengals lost to the Patriots. If you flip that, if the Bengals beat the Patriots week 1, the Bengals are in the playoffs. Patriots have the number 1 overall pick. It's crazy. It's crazy. Commanders beat the Cowboys to set up a matchup with Tampa. I think that'll be a good game. If Washington wins and Green Bay wins, the Vikings are hosting a playoff game. Pretty crazy to think. Bucks are looking good. Evans gets the 1,000 yards. That was pretty cool. Last play of the game, they got it to him. Everyone freaked out. Mike Evans deserves it. Ties Jerry Rice for the most 1,000 yard seasons in a row. I think, is it in a row or all time? I'm not sure what it is, but great stuff. Panthers win a thriller against the Falcons. Bryce Young is freaking good. And I like when he's playing with confidence. He had a fadeaway, not a fadeaway, but like a no-look Curry touchdown. He threw it, turned around, kind of posed for the camera, touchdown. Bryce Young is good. I mean, there was a reason he was the number 1 overall pick. Let's be for real. But let's talk about the Falcons. Kirk Cousins. Paid him $160 million. Missed the playoffs. Kirk Cousins riding the pine for the last 3 weeks of the season. Making a lot of money on that sideline. It's going to be a big dead cap hit next season for the Falcons. And they say that they're willing to keep him as a backup if they can't find a trade partner for him. And to be honest with you, I don't know who's going to look at that Kirk Cousins film this year and be like, we want that guy. I don't think that's going to happen. Jets win in what could possibly be Rodgers' last game. The way Rodgers was, he hit 500 yards or he hit 500 touchdowns. He threw a touchdown pass to Devontae Adams. It all kind of felt like the perfect storm for Rodgers to retire. And I know in his post-game press conference, he said he wouldn't mind playing for the Jets, but if the Jets don't want him, he wouldn't mind playing for another team. But I don't know what team is going to go out there and be like, yeah, we want Rodgers. Like, yeah, I think that's our missing piece to really putting this all together. I don't know what team is going to do that. So that very well could have been Rodgers' last game. Only time will tell. The Seahawks win against the JV Rams. That was the game that ultimately decided where the Vikings would play. Obviously, we didn't know it at the time because our game was yet to be played. But Seahawks win. They don't make the playoffs. Only 10-win team to miss the playoffs. Mike McDonald's first year. Good season, 10 wins. Can't complain. Obviously, would have liked to make the playoffs, but can't do. I mean, I don't know. Can't win them all. But yeah, that's setting up the Vikings-Rams matchup next Monday night. Monday night game, don't mind. All eyes are going to be on us no matter what. Standalone game, it's just going to be another long week. Another long week of waiting around, waiting for the Vikings to play. All right, let's get into the Facebook scroll of the week. Boy, oh boy, did people have some stuff to say. Someone said, Vikes got their much-needed loss out of the way. Now it's 4 wins in a row. Skull. See, they didn't need a loss. Vikes got their much-needed loss out of the way. I hate that. Much-needed loss. I don't think there's ever such a thing as a much-needed loss. Sometimes you need to get punched in the face. Get your teeth kicked in. I get that. But not when it's for the number 1 seed in the NFC. Someone said, well, on the bright side, we're the best wild card team ever at 14-3. I guess. I don't know if that's anything to be proud about, though, being the best wild card team ever, 14-3 wild card team. Seems pretty ridiculous. Someone said, Vikings suck tonight. Looks like we need Aaron Rodgers or someone that can throw a ball to our receivers and get somewhere. Very bad game, and the refs are against the Vikings tonight. That's for sure. If you're looking for someone that can throw the ball to your wide receivers, Aaron Rodgers is not the answer. You clearly haven't watched an Aaron Rodgers game this season because he stinks really bad. Sam Darnold has one bad game, and everyone's calling for his head. He won 14 games this season, and everyone's calling for his head. I just saw a tweet that asked, if Sam Darnold goes and stinks it up in the first half, will the Vikings play Nick Mullins or Daniel Jones? Maybe the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And it was from a Vikings Twitter account that is decently valid. Like, they post good stuff most of the time. But the hypotheticals like that is just extremely annoying. There's just overreaction. Like, doing it, I don't know if you're doing it for clicks or what, but like, it's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Why are we asking that? He won 14 games this season. 14 regular season games. And we're asking if we should put Daniel Jones in? What an absolute joke. But yeah, I mean, you can say the refs were against us tonight, but my God, I mean, we didn't even get close to winning that game. Someone said, hey, miss me yet? And it's a picture of Kirk Cousins. Absolutely not. You're watching this game and you're thinking, oh man, Kirk Cousins would be balling out right now? You obviously haven't watched Kirk Cousins play this season. Kirk Cousins would have freaking stood in that pocket, done his little fake pass, and then he just tucks the ball into his belly and falls over. He would have done that a million times in that Sunday night game against the Lions. Someone said, we are probably going to lose to the Rams, but they spelt it loose. And then our great season record is going to haunt us come draft day. So you can't think about it like that. You're in it. You win. Oh my God, I can't even talk. You play the regular season to win a Super Bowl. Winning 14 games is putting you in a good position to win the Super Bowl. You can't just say, oh, you're going to get first rounded, then you're going to have a crap pick. What? This is all dumb. I mean, Vikings fans, like I said, they're ranked the dumbest fans in the NFL. Vikings Facebook might be. If Darnold can't handle the pressure of a 1 seed game, how is he going to handle the playoffs? I mean, I think that 1 seed game has more pressure than the playoffs because you're playing for, I mean, I know that your season isn't on the line, but it felt like you were playing for more. The stakes were higher. You're on the road in Detroit, divisional game. You've already played this team once. Those lights seem brighter than a wild card matchup in LA against the Rams. LA isn't known to have like these crazy fan atmospheres with these die-hard fans being as loud as possible and freaking terrorizing Vikings fans that are women. LA isn't known for that. Shout out Detroit, by the way. Absolutely scumbag fans picking on all the Vikings players' wives in the stands, pushing pregnant ladies down the stairs. Just horrific stuff from Detroit. But honestly, I don't expect nothing less than Detroit. Let's be for real. But those lights seem brighter in that game against Detroit than the wild card game against the Rams. And I know it's win or go home against the Rams, but again, the pressure is off now. Like I said earlier, the pressure isn't as high as it was for the Detroit game. Someone said, you guys ever think that they blew that game on purpose? If they won, wait, what? If they win, they play the Lions in 2 weeks. Most likely, that's not for sure. Maybe they didn't want to show off everything to prepare for that game. I mean, that's like galaxy mind, Facebook mind thinking right there. That's like, I can't even put into words. I would have, I'm speechless. Well, someone actually out there thinks the Vikings blew that game on purpose? Like, is that a for real thing? I hope so. Maybe. That would be freaking awesome. That would be awesome. All I know, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Let's just put it at that. If we are one and done, then let Sam go. Use Danny Dimes to tutor JJ. Hope for the best. Oh my God. This game is going to determine a lot of situations for the Vikings going into the next season. It's going to determine a lot of things. And will Sam Darnold be done if they lose this game? Maybe. Depends on how he plays. And it's just, there's a lot of things to think about. But the fact that you said use Danny Dimes to tutor JJ. We're talking Danny Dimes. We're talking Daniel Jones, one of the worst draft picks of all time. Let's have him tutor our rookie quarterback that's never played a game in the NFL. I don't like that. How about we just use our hell of a head coach and have him tutor JJ? How about we just keep Daniel Jones away from JJ McCarthy and not let him give him any advice? Maybe he can shed some advice on what not to do in the NFL. All right. Someone said, I know a lot of y'all are older than me, but as a 27-year-old and as someone who's been a fan since I was 10, I just want one Super Bowl. Now, this is where all the unks are going to tune in. And if you're listening, unks, any unks out there, if you're listening, you're going to be really mad because this fan is 27. And I know if I said this to my dad, that I'm 23 and I just really want to see a Vikings Super Bowl, he would start, I've been watching the 50 plus years. I've seen it all. 1998, 2000, 09, I've 17. I've seen it all. You haven't been through anything. Vikings fans love talking about their PTSD. They love saying that they know what's going to happen in Vikings games because of the history of this team. Well, I can promise you, the results of the 1998 season aren't going to have any effect on this year's team. Not one bit. Because I can promise you, these Vikings players don't carry any of that weight. Because they don't care. They don't care what happened in previous years with the Vikings. They don't care. Only fans do. And I just hate when the results of past seasons aren't going to affect this season, especially when it's in 1998. Let's just say that. But I know a lot of people are going to be mad at this dude right here because he's been wanting a Vikings Super Bowl for 17 years. And there's people out there that have been wanting a Vikings Super Bowl since Super Bowl 58, 59, whatever it is. I know the people are going to be mad at him. Someone said, I don't understand why when we beat the Rams, our next test is the Lions, but the Bills wouldn't meet the Chiefs until the semis. Well, it's a simple equation here. The Bills won their division, therefore they get the 2 seed in the AFC, and the Vikings didn't win their division, therefore they would have to play they would have to play a division winner if they win their game because they didn't win their division. It's a pretty easy concept here. Well, that's typical Minnesota. The refs fuck us out of everything. 172 comments. I can imagine it's a lot of comments about the refs being bad. Was that safety grounding? Or was that non-safety grounding? Yes. Were there a couple times the refs could have thrown a flag on the Lions? Yes. There was a couple times where they could have thrown a flag on the Vikings. Yes. But I can promise you, the refs were not the ones that decided this game. Someone said, yeah, let JJ take the beating Darnold did this year. Let JJ take the beating Darnold did this year. Did you see him on the sideline? Skinny little kid. He wouldn't make it 10 games. Still in it. What? Still in it? I don't get it. JJ McCarthy got flashed on the sideline there. Fans went a little bit crazy on Twitter after seeing that. Focusing on the future and such. He looks skinny. I mean, he can't really do anything with an MCL. You can't really get in there and start squatting 225. But I mean, JJ McCarthy, like, just because he looks like that doesn't going to determine whether he's a good NFL quarterback or not. Doesn't make any sense. This might be the most outlandish one. If we would have taken Bo Nix, we would still have made the playoffs and have a potential Tom Brady for the future. Instead, Kwesi has accumulated a pile of average Joes. Comparing Bo Nix to Tom Brady is next level trolling. I'm still not all in on Bo Nix. The air yard statistics, him throwing a lot of screens, that accounts for a lot of those stats. Comparing him to Tom Brady is outrageous. Comparing anyone to Tom Brady except Patrick Mahomes is outrageous. Even comparing Patrick Mahomes to Tom Brady is a little bit crazy just because he's not even in that realm of Super Bowl rings. We're talking about Bo Nix, who led the Broncos to the playoffs to a wild card spot, the last wild card spot in his first season. And we're comparing him to Tom Brady. Now that's some Vikings bias right there of like, oh, you should have drafted him. We haven't even seen JJ McCarthy play a game yet. Instead, Kwesi has accumulated a pile of average Joes. I just don't understand that. I don't get that. Looks like the Vikes prepared for a team missing their starting running back. Bad move. I'm pretty sure the Vikings didn't prepare this entire week for this Lions game thinking, oh, David Montgomery's out. We're going to be all right. Jahmyr Gibbs is the more dangerous back. They're even more dangerous together, but Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy you need to worry about. David Montgomery's good, but he's not nearly as a game changer as Jahmyr Gibbs is. I mean, you saw it point blank period. This Lions offense really didn't miss a beat with Jahmyr Gibbs back there. Someone said, at least it wasn't the NFC Championship game this time, and we have a chance to right the ship. I need a skull from everyone who still believes. This is facts. At least it wasn't an NFC Championship game because Vikings usually tend to get brutally beat in those games, but it wasn't this time. The Vikings still have another game to play. Hopefully multiple games to play. That concludes Vikings Facebook Scroll of the Week. Comparing Bo Nix to Tom Brady is just absolutely crazy. Minnesota Vikings punishment. I have to do a research project on Henry Ford. This is my second Lions punishment of the year. I had to listen to Eminem for the entire day the first time, and now I have to do a research project on Henry Ford. To be determined, the timing on this. I have a lot of crap going on this week. I'm leaving for San Antonio Thursday morning. I'm going to try and get it done, but at the same time, I don't want to rush it and have it just be dumb. I want to put some effort into it. So we'll see. To be determined on the timing. Should I do something for the playoffs? I'm not too sure. DM me on Strictly Late and let me know before Monday if I should do something for the playoffs. All right. Speaking of the playoffs, Vikings versus Rams preview. Rematch of the game that already happened this season. And as I was going back, thinking about this Rams game, I was thinking about how it was a perfect storm for the Vikings to lose that game. They were coming off a tough loss to Detroit. It was a short week. They traveled all the way west on a short week. They lost their starting left tackle at halftime. They found out Puka Nacua would be playing about an hour before the game started. And it was the first time Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp played together since week one. They both had fresh legs. It was the perfect storm for the Vikings to lose that game. So I don't want to put too much weight on the Vikings' first time losing to the Rams. And they still had a chance to win it at the end of the game. If it wasn't for a missed face mask call, the Vikings still would have had a chance to drive the field and tie the game. And that easily could have happened because that Rams defense was letting the Vikings pretty much do whatever they wanted all game. Slowing down Puka and Kupp will be the key, especially with B-Flow's blitzes and just all the heat that he brings. The Rams did a really good job limiting the blitz packages from B-Flow, or I would say countering the blitzes with just short screens, short throws, a lot of Kyron Williams dump-offs. They were doing a good job with that. I would imagine B-Flow would have a nice counter to that as well. Jefferson needs to be a key feature against the Rams defense. Obviously, he's a major contributor every single time this offense touches the field. He needs to be thrown the ball. Nobody can cover this guy. And when we're in a win or go home situation in the playoffs, this guy needs to be the feature. He needs to win us the game because he's going to make the plays in order to win the game. We need to shove the ball down this dude's throat. It needs to happen. And if not, Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson need to go for 250 plus combined, obviously. The Rams haven't looked the same. They haven't looked like the same team as of late, but it's a team with Super Bowl experience. I'm not too sure how many players are still on that Rams team from the Super Bowl. I can't imagine a lot, but obviously they still have Kupp, Stafford, McVay. It's a team with Super Bowl DNA playing their old offensive coordinator that they might know a thing or two against or about. So it's going to be a tough game. No easy way of putting it. Again, I said the lights aren't going to be as bright as the Detroit game because the pressure is off. The pressure isn't on anymore. Obviously, there is pressure to win this game, but they're not as bright as the Lions game was. I have confidence in this Vikings team bouncing back. We know how they can play. We know what they're capable of. And we know that if they're playing their A game on both sides of the ball and they put a full 60 minutes together, which is what it's going to take to beat this team, they can do it. And then we're on to the next one, on to the divisional game. And just heads up, the Vikings play on Monday. If they do win or when they win, they automatically play on Sunday. They can't have the Saturday game for the divisional rounds, which is nice for me because I will once again be traveling. I'm looking forward to it. I think the Vikings have a good chance to win. They opened as 2.5-point favorites. They're down to 1.5-point favorites on the road, which is saying something. The books like the Vikings might be a little bit overreaction to that Lions game, with a lot of people putting money on the Rams, getting that line to move. But I still think a majority of the money might be on the Vikings. It just might be the heavy monies on the Rams. All right, let's name the most random Vikings player we can think of. I haven't gotten this all season. Here we go. Name the most random. I'm going to go Pat Williams. He blew the horn against the Packers game. How about Bobby Wade? He was a wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings in the mid-2000s, primarily a special teams guy and not exactly a household name. Pretty random. It's very random, ChatGPT. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Tough game against the Lions, but you know what? The playoffs are starting now. It's time to lock in. Appreciate you guys.